right, hey, please be seated. Whew, that's the way to kick off a morning, huh? Man, D.C., wherever you are, that was incredible. I hear a lot of the national anthem, and gosh, he belted that out. So, yeah, I'm honored to be here with you guys nationwide. Thank you for sponsoring me. AALU, just incredible to be here. And I speak all over the country on leadership, teamwork, and the number one thing, overcoming adversity. But as you also saw, I'm what some may call a super patriot. I'm just saying. I love this country. I love everything about it, as I'm sure you saw in that speech. But I also think there are critical components that all of us can play a part in, and so many of those things came into my story and my journey as a military leader. I always like to start things off by focusing on one little simple thing, because I hear it all the time. I'll be out and about, and I'll hear somebody go, "Man, I had the worst day." How many have had a bad day? We all have. I'll hear somebody make this statement, "Oh, I had such a bad day." And I'm like, "Yeah, really? Tell me about it." And they're like, "Oh, I woke up late and, I couldn't find my keys and I got out the car and, I forgot to fill up and then I had to get gas and I ran into Starbucks and I got my name wrong on the cup and I got the wrong drink and I spilled it in my lap and I had coffee on my suit and, then I'm driving, I get to work, the boss is upset and I'm like, aw, that's cute. That's real cute. Let me tell you about my bad day. You guys heard about my bad day in the initial speech. That day became a benchmark for me. It changed everything in my life. And I have definitely had a very unique journey even up to that point. But that became truly the dividing line on everything that I looked at. My criteria for a bad day now is anybody shooting at me and is anybody dying? And I talk to a lot of people about that. I say, when you're losing your mind or you're upset or you're totally stressed out, do you really need to be? Is anybody dying? Because if they're not, then take a breath and then focus on that next step. That mission that night that I got medevaced out, it set the example. And when I look back on so many of the things that played the part in enabling me to come home, I decided I boiled it down to 5 principles that enabled me to come home that night. And that became the idea, the presentation of the 5 principles of elite performers. I think all special operations forces display these 5 key principles. I believe many people in the military display these principles, but I think special operations has truly honed it. And the number one of these principles is teamwork. A generally overused term when you really look at it. We all say, hey, we want to be a part of the team. We've got to work together. We've got to have a stronger team. We need teamwork to accomplish things. But the SEAL teams truly bring teamwork to a science. And even on that night, on that mission, all of the different aspects of that team played together to enable me to come home. From the mission planning that went into it, from my teammates that were on target, from the AC-130 gunship that flew in, from the U.S. Army medevac platform that flew the rotors off that helicopter to get me back to Baghdad, along with my other 2 wounded teammates, to the incredible medical team of U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force doctors, nurses, medics, corpsmen, who put me back together. I didn't know any of them, but they all were part of this team that said, we have a common goal. It is either to lay down air support, it is to be a medevac platform, it is to save the lives of our wounded warriors. Now that's teamwork. But nowhere more do they show you what teamwork is than at SEAL training. Now, do I have anybody that's been through SEAL training in this room? Do I have any teammates out there? Okay. If you did, I would have called you up here. You could have sat on the stage with me. It would have been amazing. But it all starts with this little boat right here. This boat becomes the bane of your existence. You will learn to absolutely despise and hate that stupid little rubber boat that you carry around on top of your head everywhere you go. And everything about that boat teaches you teamwork. It teaches you that all your movements have to be coordinated. Everything you do. We have a little saying, though. You got to carry the weight. You know, everybody's heard that phrase, well, you got to carry your weight. Well, in BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, there's no truer statement than that right there when it leads to teamwork. And that's the reason they use that boat. Because you instantly know if somebody doesn't have their head under the boat, because suddenly the weight shifts and you start hearing a lot of colorful descriptions as they tell their teammate, get your head back under the boat and carry the weight. And as you can see, the guy in the back, nobody likes that guy right now. He ain't carrying his weight. The other great way they do it is through a really insidious form of physical training called log PT. I don't know what sadistic person thought this up. Whoever came up with the idea of, hey, let's cut telephone poles in half and we'll make the students work out with them. And they have these colorful activities where you're doing different things with the logs, like sit-ups, or you're running races with them. But you truly learn how to work as a team. And that's what's so critical. Because everybody has to be carrying their weight. Everybody has to be doing what they're doing. Whether you're a member of an insurance company, whether you're a member of AALU, whether you're law enforcement, whether you're a trash collector. It doesn't really matter. Everybody has to play a part in the team because it leads up to success. And everybody's got to look at how they can carry the weight. I love this picture because if you look at the second guy from the right, he's only got one hand on the log. First time I ever saw this picture, I was like, that's slacker. Look at that guy. But if you look closer, he's leaning over. He's got his arm behind his buddy. And he's helping pull his buddy up. Not only is he carrying his weight, he's carrying his buddy's weight. That is teamwork. And that is what we all should be aspiring to within our own individual teams. How do I make a difference in my own lane? And how can I help my teammates to be successful? Number 2, leadership. All of us need to strive to be better leaders. I always like to ask, what type of leader do you want to be? So many people don't really think about that. It's critical for you to think about what type of leader. And I see all types of different leaders. When I was younger, I was that simple, immature leader who believed a position and a title actually carried some weight. And then later I saw bad leaders. And then I saw great leaders, dynamic, inspirational leaders. And that's the type of leader that I hope to be. One of the great examples that I have to define leadership is something that I call the leadership fence. Imagine, if you will, this chair represents a fence that runs the length of this stage, a chain link fence that you can see through. On one side are the individuals that you lead. On the other side are your superiors, those you report to. Everybody falls on one side of the fence or the other. The idea is, how do you interact with these people around you? Some of the best leaders are right up against the fence, and they're able to talk and interact and connect with those they lead. But they're also able to look through the fence and talk to those above them, understand where they want to go. They take that information back to those they're leading, but they stay close to the fence. Others are too far away. They're embedded with those they should be leading, and they get lost along the way. When I was a young, immature leader, I was one of these leaders. I wanted to hang out and drink and party with the guys. And I really had no connection with my superiors to truly understand the vision and where we were going, to really, truly set the example in leadership. Others are on this side of the fence, and they're too far over here. We all know them. They're that individual that is blind. Their blind ambition to be in a leadership position overshadows everything they do. They will literally stomp on the back of anybody in their path to try and make that next level of leadership. But they have no connection to those they should be leading. There's no inspiration. There's no motivation for these over here to say, I will follow that guy. The truly best leaders that I've seen stand on top of the fence. They climb up, and they're on the top. And they look down in those critical moments, and they see what's going on with those they should be leading. And they understand clearly where they should be going from those they follow. And in those critical crisis moments, they will step down from one side of the fence to the other. That is where we should all be as leaders. The ability to stand on top of that fence so that both those we lead and those we follow look up to us. And those were the best leaders I ever saw in my military career. The question you need to ask yourself as a leader is this: do people follow you because they want to or because they have to? And remember, when you're in those leadership positions and things are going south and you're like, gosh, I'm just not sure how I'm motivating this person, or this has gone wrong or that has gone wrong, just remember, nobody's shooting at you. Unless, do I have anybody from Chicago in here? That's different. We'll talk later. You guys come talk to me. We'll work that out. You know, the biggest thing about leadership that I like to tell people, if you are in a leadership position, you need to wrap your head around one fact. You should lead always. In everything you do, once you decide that you're going to be a leader, you should be a leader of your family. You should be a leader in the community. You should be a leader in your business. You should be a leader of yourself. Because everything you do is built around that one fact. And anything you do negatively is going to impact your credibility as a leader. The picture on the left was right after I got out of emergency surgery that saved my life. Excuse me. I ended up in Bethesda, and I met a young wounded warrior who came into the room. And he was fascinated. He wanted to meet this SEAL officer. And I could tell he was motivated just because of the mere fact I was a SEAL. And here I am, I'm all banged up and mangled, and I'm like, man, where do I go from here? But I saw an opportunity. I saw an opportunity, if I stayed positive, that I could motivate and inspire this young wounded warrior. So I put behind my own personal desires of wanting to feel sorry for myself. And I said, okay, let's drive forward. We can do this. The last thing I want to say about leadership is have fun. Nobody likes, we all get this idea of the leader who's really stoic. Hey, we're going to do this. Have fun. People want to be around fun people. So the picture on the right is a picture of me prior to probably my, 20-something surgery. And we had a lot of infection problems, which is very common with wounded warriors. And as we went into that surgery, the doctors were frustrated. I was frustrated. My wife was frustrated. And there was a People magazine sitting next to me, with like the 100 most beautiful people. So I saw a picture of Brad Pitt, and I cut it out. I stuck it in the little front pocket of my buttless gown. And they wheeled me into surgery. And as they were getting ready to give me the go juice, I was like, hey, Doc. It's been a while. I just want to remind you of what I used to look like. And the nurse goes, that's Brad Pitt. And I was like, yeah, I used to always get that. Number 3, you got to have a clearly defined mission, task, or goal. You got to know where you're going. We've all heard this. Absolutely critical. You've got to be able to define where you're going within your organization, within your team, even within yourself. Set those goals. What do you do with them? You've got to make them realistic, achievable, measurable, and adaptable. When I got out of the military, if I had gotten out and said, you know what, I think I'm going to be an NFL lineman. I'm 5'8" and 170 pounds. The average NFL lineman is, 6'6" and probably 310. You guys would all be chomping at the bit and be like, we got a great life insurance policy for you, my friend. But the idea is you got to set these things. You got to look at how you're going to move forward. You got to be able to measure them. And then when things go sideways, things go south, as they always do, you got to be able to adapt to them. Last thing I always tell people, you got to beware of false expectations. When I was going through Hell Week is considered by some the toughest block of training in the entire U.S. military. It lasts 1 week, and during that week, you average, if you're lucky, about 3 hours of sleep. You're cold, wet, coated in sand, absolutely miserable. Many guys go bald from carrying that stupid little rubber boat on top of your head everywhere you go. They like to do this thing where everywhere you go, you carry the boat on top of your head, and when you're under the boat, all you can think about is how much I wish I could get out from underneath this boat. And then they put you in the 50-some degree Pacific water and do this sadistic thing called surf torture, where you lay in the waves and they go up your nose and you're freezing, and all you're thinking about when you're in the water is how much you wish you were back under the boat. Needless to say, Hell Week. Well, during Hell Week, I was told, if you make it to Wednesday morning, the sunrise on Wednesday morning, you'll make it through Hell Week. It gets easy. It's all downhill. I was like, check. So I'm grinding along, and Wednesday morning the sun rose, and it was like the angels. Oh. I was like, done. It's easy. It's all downhill. It was not. It was not easy. I had my hardest night on Thursday night. I was like starting to contemplate quitting on Thursday night. And the problem was I had created a false expectation in my mind. So beware of those false expectations. Beware of the back button on the clicker, too. All right, number 4, the overcome mindset. This is the single most important thing I'm going to talk to you about today. Because you can be a great leader. You can have an amazing team. You can have a clearly defined plan. If you do not build your mind around the overcome mindset, this idea that when things go wrong, I'm going to continue to drive forward, most of the rest of that stuff doesn't matter. The overcome mindset is just a mindset that says, I will never quit. We live in this day and age where quitting has become the easy thing to do. Oh, if I'm uncomfortable, just quit. If things aren't working, just quit. If you don't like your spouse, just quit. Man, where is the grit that made this country into what it is? Build that overcome mindset. If you build that overcome mindset, you can find success. But you also have to watch some of these things that I like to call momentum killers. Number 1 is the no hope mentality. We all see it. We're part of a team. We're trying to get things done. And things really go badly. And you're trying to figure out a way out of the mess that you suddenly find yourself in. And you get that one person that says, why? There's no hope. We're not going to make it out. We can't do this. Yeah. Not a good plan. You need to squash that. You see this a lot on the football field. I'm a big football fan. You will see teams that are getting decidedly beat, and players will stop playing to their full level. They haven't physically quit. They haven't walked off the field, but they're no longer playing. They've like mentally checked out. A great example of this was in Super Bowl last year. Cam Newton at the end of that game. Cam Newton mentally checked out. He fostered a no-hope mentality. And when you're a leader, you cannot do that. You must be that individual that is driving forward, motivating, inspiring, and has the overcome mindset in everything they do. The next one is the not my job mentality, and I despise this one. You know, when we're all working, we're trying to get something done, we need people to work as part of a team, we need somebody to help carry the weight, and they go, it's not my job. It is our job to accomplish the objective of the organization. It is our job to find success, and all of us must work together to accomplish that. That is the overcome mindset. The best way I can describe the overcome mindset is through our breachers. Our breachers are some of the best trained forces in the world. And their job is to get through doors or walls or windows so that we can either get into a target or sometimes to get out of a target. And we train them how to utilize all kinds of tools, explosives, all these different things to get into or out of these target buildings. But the number one thing that we teach them is that it does not matter what you encounter. Any wall or door or obstacle that you find in your path, you will get through it. You will either go over it, under it, around it, or you will destructively go through it. But no matter what, you will get to the other side. This is the essence of the overcome mindset. And if you can build your mind around this fact, you will find success for any obstacle you encounter. Okay, the last one, adapt to the unexpected. No matter how good a plan you have, no matter how well you prepare, no matter how good your leadership is, things will go horrendously wrong. Things went horrendously wrong that night on that mission. And we had a pretty damn good plan before we went in. This is, besides the overcome mindset, adapting to the unexpected is one of the greatest things that enables soft forces to accomplish what they do. Okay, now this is why they paid me to be here. I am going to give you guys the secret to life. Be ready to write this down. It's very, very, very important. It's going to blow your mind, like mind blown. Life is not fair. Sounds funny. Our parents told us that when we were younger, and you were like, Mom and Dad, you're so stupid. It's true, though. If you can wrap your head around that fact also, if you can build that in your team, the fact that life's not fair, you will find success. SEAL training does this to the highest level whatsoever. And they do it through a simple thing called a room inspection. You go into that room inspection and they tell you, okay, this is how your room has to be done. You know, your bed has to be made a certain way. Your clothes have to be hung in the closet. There has to be X amount of distance in between every article of clothing. Your floor has to be shined to, a mirror finish. There can't be a single grain of sand in your room. You live on the beach. So you have all this done, and you're getting ready for the room inspection to start, and you're like standing there at attention. The instructors come into the room. I mean, it's so clean, like Mr. Clean himself would be like, you guys are hired. This is the cleanest room I've ever seen, Rub on his little bald head. And you're standing there, and the instructor comes in, and he's like, it's probably the cleanest room I've ever seen, gentlemen. And you get that little flutter in your heart, like you're like, oh, we're going to do it. We're going to make it this time. We're going to pass. And all of a sudden, he reaches into his pocket, and he goes, you know what's wrong with this room? And like your world starts to crush and crumble, like, and you're like, oh God, here it comes. And he reaches in and he pulls out a handful of sand right in front of your face and he drops it onto the floor and he goes, there's sand on your floor. Drop down. And you get down and you start doing push-ups like those guys. Then he tells you to go get your uniforms and grab your sheets and pretty much everything in your room and run down to the surf zone and get in the water and coat yourself in, great warm Pacific Ocean water, and then roll in the sand and bring all that back into your room. The lesson they're teaching you is that you can be perfect and it still will not go right. And what they're looking for is the individual that can put a smile back on his face and say, all right, guys, we're going to be perfect next time. And it may not go right, but we're still going to drive forward and find success. That's the essence of adapting to the unexpected. Okay, so the way forward, the mark of any man, woman, or organization is not found in their past, but how they overcome adversity and build their future. Quitting is never an option. And regardless of the overwhelming obstacles or adversity in your path, you always have the opportunity to overcome. It is your attitude that will determine the outcome. So, quick recap, 5 principles of elite performers. Anybody want to give them to me? Anybody want to come up here with me real quick and we'll wrap this up? I got a prize for you. It's so funny. You get people in front of a crowd and they're terrified to get up on a stage. All right, I'll do them myself. Teamwork. Who's got the next one? Leadership. Clearly find mission, task, or goal. Yes. I love that, man. Adapting to the unexpected. This is what makes soft forces effective. This is what enables special operations forces effective. This is what enables them to be successful. Okay, I don't think we have time for questions, but I will be at the Nationwide booth at noon. I will be around. I want to thank you guys for having me. It's been an honor to be here. Last, if any of you want to learn more about those principles, if any of you want to learn more of the journey that I went through, you can go to my website, softspoken.com. You can purchase a signed copy of my book. If you put in the code AALU, you'll get 20% off. I'm Jason Redman, a very humble man that's been forged and reforged by the fires of adversity. I want to thank you guys for having me. God bless America.